Angela!
What's up, everybody out there in YouTube land? Wrath2501 here. Okay, guys, still getting ready for Spooky Month! Doing the Spooky Month dance. Alright, yeah, I'm excited. So, we're still trying to get in the mood. Alright, this is another video from Plant. This is Logs from the Lookout Part 3. As I understand, there's a lot more to this. I hope he does the rest. Alright, so, I love this guy's stuff. The readings he does are good, and I like how he... Excuse me, I got these hiccups. I like how he uses the TF2 SFM characters for this, models for this. Alright, so let's see what else is going on out in the woods, alright? And go.
I feel like I'm beginning to lose my mind.
Oh shit,
It's
that's
only
never a
been
good sign.
5 days since the last log, but so much has happened.
Dude, you should be
feel
updating
like I
that
need to
shit
record the
daily
event.
with what's going on out there.
I had lost contact with Tower 7,
Oh.
with Peter, 2 nights ago.
Oh,
His last few messages to myself and
Oh,
Katie
he got
were strange.
he got so late.
He told us that he was
so
hearing voices coming from outside of his tower. Whispers, beckoning him to come outside.
Oh hell no!
He said that no matter where he was inside the tower, the voices would always sound like they were right next to him.
Then fart.
He said he took
If something
everything
sounds
that
like it's right
wasn't
next to you,
bolted
just
down
let one rip. It's like
and
ah!
stacked it in front of the large shattered window and door. He
Oh,
attempted
good. He
to
took my
contact
advice. That's
anyone
what I
on the
said. Pile
emergency
shit in front of that
frequency,
window.
though received no reply.
Oh.
When he told us this, we each tried to do the same. And it was in that moment that
The
we
radio's
realized
been cut off.
all 3 of us were alone out here. The evening before Peter's radio went silent, he was saying that he could hear heavy footsteps
Balls.
ascending the tower. They'd rattle off the metal steps and get right up to the tower's platform before stopping. He said when he looked out of the window, he couldn't see anyone standing there. He asked us what he should do.
Stay down.
And
Stay
honestly,
quiet.
We didn't have an answer for him.
Don't move. Don't
We could hear his
breathe.
increasing
Don't do
distress
anything
through the
except
crackling receiver.
pray, maybe.
But we were at a loss. His radio went silent shortly after that.
Oh shit.
Both Katie and I tried
Yep,
contacting
he gone.
him
He
over
did.
and over again.
He got so
But every
late.
time, no response was heard from Tower 7.
Leave.
I had considered packing up a bag and hiking through the forest to his tower.
How about like
However, every
get
time
the
I stepped
fuck out of there?
outside and looked down at the trees below, I'd turn around and go back inside. I felt terrible every time
As soon as the
I
sun
tried
came
to
up, you're
attempt
like,
it and failed.
My ass
If
is
this
gone,
had
man.
happened on the first day, I would already be on my way over to his tower. But after experiencing what I had been for the past 2 weeks, my brain couldn't push my body down those steps. Yesterday
Brain's
morning,
like, go, but he's like, no,
I
no,
spent
no, no, no,
hours
no, no,
just standing on a
no.
small ledge outside my tower door, using my binoculars to look over at Tower 7. Even though it had always been fairly
When they're
difficult
flipping
to
you
spot
off.
from my position, looking at the structure now, it just seemed lifeless. Like looking at an abandoned building. I spent the afternoon speaking with Katie in Tower 9. She had been growing more and more concerned with each passing hour. She had been oblivious to the things both Peter and I had witnessed. She couldn't understand what was happening. Hell, I barely understood it myself. She kept asking me for advice on what we should do about Tower 7. And
Run.
much like with Peter, I didn't really have an answer. The best I could muster was to tell her to remain in her tower, and that we'll keep trying to contact Tower 7. Even though I could hear
Oh,
her feet in
contact
her
the emergency
voice,
signal.
she agreed.
Contact somebody. Get your asses
Hours
out here and get me the fuck
passed
out of
and the
here.
sun began
There's
to
something
fall from the
bad
sky.
going on out here.
With night growing on the horizon, a chill swept through the area. It was far colder this night than any other night previously.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
I
Something's
began
there.
to stack whatever I could
It's
in front
sucking
of the
all the
door to my
heat energy
tower.
out of the air.
I wasn't entirely sure what I'd be preparing for, or if something like this would work, but doing this provided a bit of relief to my nerves.
Lock the windows too.
As I sat there huddled in the corner with a small lamp at my side, and my gun within reach, I stared off through the window, trying to remain alert.
I also want to see if you can rig up
At
something on
roughly
the
midnight,
steps, so something
something
can't
happened.
climb the tower.
I felt my head beginning to nod as I was struggling to keep my eyes open, when the radio crackled for a second. I felt my eyes shoot open, not entirely sure if I truly heard something.
In-story
The
jump
crackling
scare.
returned a second time and I walked over to it. I picked up the receiver and asked if it was Peter. A long 5 minutes passed. The silence in the air was so heavy that the ticks from my watch sounded like a hammer on metal. A voice spoke through the radio. And when I heard it, I dropped the receiver and backed away. The voice was faint and distant, and yet at the same time, it felt like the voice was right behind me, speaking into my ear.
Oh, shit.
It said,
Moan
I
him.
backed up across the length of the tower until my back pressed up against the cold glass of the window. I felt my breathing become shallow. I had never heard a voice like that before, and it clearly wasn't Peter. I turned and looked in the direction of
German
Tower
accent.
7, though it was impossible to see it in the dark.
There's no light on.
I was at a loss for words and actions. I slid down to the floor and sat there looking at the now silent radio. I stayed like this for nearly an hour. I thought about walking over and attempting to contact Katie, but I couldn't force myself to move from the spot. The minutes were ticking by, and I was longing for sunrise to crest over the trees. That's when I heard a sound coming from outside the tower. The sound of heavy footfalls on each step leading up to the top.
Oh, shit.
I could feel my pulse beginning to quicken, and the thrum of my heartbeat began to sync up with each deliberate step. The steps seemed to reverberate endlessly. Then, when they grew the loudest at the top of the stairs, they stopped.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
I stood up and looked through the window across the tower. There was nothing there. A million things were racing through my mind, wondering who or what could have been making that noise. I waited, and no more footsteps came. It would have been foolish for me to think this was a product of my imagination at this point.
Yeah.
I could clearly hear those footsteps drawing closer and closer.
Eh,
There was definitely something
probably a weather balloon.
outside of my
Looks
tower.
look like a lens flare and some dust.
As I stood in silence, trying to mentally prepare myself for something to happen, I heard a new sound. A sharp tick, tick, tick against
the-
one of the glass windows.
Oh, that wasn't a tick, tick,
I
tick.
slowly turned.
That was something banging on the door.
There
Oh,
was
shit.
something hanging upside down from on top of the tower. Its head seemed to be floating in midair. Long, stringy black hair dangled from its scalp like a torn-up bedsheet. Its eyes were heavily sunken into its face, and they didn't seem
Wendigo.
to have any pupils.
Yep.
A twisted grin stretched from ear to ear. Teeth, like sharp, jagged rocks, infested its mouth.
Yep, definitely Wendigo.
Long,
It's a Wendigo.
bony fingers held this thing in place against the glass. Fingers that were nearly as long as my forearm. It curled a single finger, wrapping the nail against the glass over and over again. Despite my fear upon seeing this thing, I did notice that this creature didn't look like the one that had previously carried the lantern.
Oh,
Well,
really?
not entirely the same, that is. This one looked vicious, like it wanted to harm me, while the other one just seemed curious, if that makes any sense. It stared at me like a beast, stalking its prey. I could feel my throat begin to dry up and sweat begin to drop from my forehead. I eyed
Where's
the
your gun?
shotgun resting on the ground near where I was previously sitting.
Don't panic,
Its
though.
teeth began to separate, revealing a slimy black tongue that licked across the glass. Strings of foul saliva dripped against it, nearly causing me to gag. It began tapping harder and harder on the glass. A moment later, my worst fear came to life. The window began to crack. It started where the finger was impacting, then began to branch out like a spider web until the entire pane was a brittle mess. One final tap, and the entire window shattered.
Grab that shotgun.
When that happened, I felt my body jerk forward and I dove for the gun. I scooped it up with both hands and fired directly at the window. The
And it was
sound
gone.
left a harsh ringing in my ears that didn't subside for some time.
You fired
And
panically,
wafts
dude.
of smoke filled the tower. A moment later, the smoke cleared, and I looked at the window.
It was
There
gone.
was no sign of it anywhere. I had no idea if I had hit it or not. There didn't seem to be any indication left behind. My hands were trembling so badly as I held the gun
Yeah, not
that
a
the
good
rattling
time.
of metal and wood was quickly overtaking the incessant ringing. I stood up and slowly walked over to the window. I looked around for a few moments, and once I was convinced it had gone, I looked over the ledge. When I did, I saw something large and dark disappearing into the trees,
Oh, you did
heading
hit it.
away from the tower.
Looks like you knocked it off the tower.
The sun eventually begun to rise, and I could feel warmth returning to me after such a cold, terrible night. I contacted Katie and told her what had happened. She was in complete disbelief, and honestly, I don't blame her. I'm not sure what to do at this point. I doubt we're going to make it to the end of all this. I don't know how many more shells that thing can take, but my ammo will run out eventually, and then it will be too late. I can't stop thinking about Katie and how she could be next. It's an insane thought, I know, but I feel like I need to go to her, to help her. I don't know if I will write again, or if I'll even be here to write again. I'm going to take a day to gather my thoughts, and then I'm going to leave the tower to find Katie. If I don't write again, then it means I failed. And for that,
Not necessarily.
I am sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of creepy shit out there in the woods. Anyway, so this is definitely getting us in the mood for a spooky month. Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did. Like this video, subscribe, definitely click on link to the original, like the original, subscribe to Plant for these creepy ass stories. Don't forget guys to suggest creepy videos and stuff for spooky month. Alright, it's time. We gotta do more spooky videos. And I will see you guys next time. Tune in every day for new content. Bye bye.